The show begins with two separate panels, each of them including a charming high schooler picking up an item belonging to some girls. In both cases, the boy returns a different girl's object. The scene shifts as the boy walks along his path, finding an erotic magazine. He is hesitant, wanting to take a peek, but not look desperate as the wind turns the page, making the boy sigh in triumph. Suddenly, a voice speaks in his mind, making him choose between eating the magazine and sniffing it. He is finally forced to smell the magazine like a creep, as two passing boys laugh and make fun of him. This is the story of Amakusa Kanade, who suffers from a curse called zugzwang, a dilemma that forces him to make absurd choices. The show then presents us with countless famous figures deciding their life goals and animals choosing where to live at the time of evolution, showing how every single choice they made changed history and shaped our world. Back to Kanade, he faces an ugly lady, Daiko, who tries to hit on him. He makes some excuses and runs off to school, where he meets a silver-haired girl, Yukihira, who hides her blush as he sees her. She makes odd jokes with Kanade, who is visibly flustered. Since Kanade looks confused, she starts explaining her jokes to him, leaving him dumbfounded. He starts to leave when suddenly the voice speaks in his head and orders him to either ask to touch Yukihira's boobs or ask her to touch his. Kanade chooses the latter option, and to the rest of the class's surprise, Yukihira starts asking him if he wants her to touch his breasticles, visibly upsetting everyone. She starts explaining what the word means when Kanade faces the same choice again. Yukihira refuses when suddenly a girl comes crashing through a window. Her name is Yuoji, and she's the daughter of a rich CEO. She smuggles some products in, explaining to the girls that one of them is Viagra. The carefree girl remarks how she snuck some into her mother's breakfast, making her act weird. Kanade scolds her for her actions and wonders why she brought such a product for high schoolers to try. Yuji is horsing around with Yukihira when suddenly Kanade gets a choice to either go around topless or take off his pants. He chooses to take his shirt off, running around screaming and scaring everyone away when his teacher finally comes in and takes him to the counseling room. In the counseling room, he explains that zugzwang made him act weird, and his teacher nods, sending him back after promising to cover up for him. Later, a weary Kanade heads back home when he encounters Daiko again. He faces a choice that forces him to make her hold him, and then, as he is about to leave, faces another choice to either have Daiko fall in front of him from the sky or a beautiful girl. Kanade chooses the beautiful girl, and a blonde girl falls from the sky at his feet. The next day, Kanade enters his living room where he sees the blonde girl from before, realizing she was not just a dream. Kanade talks to her as he cooks food, asking where she came from. The girl reveals she does not remember her name before pulling out an expensive box of chocolates from her chest, something she stole from Kanade. Kanade notes a tuft of her hair wagging around as she expectantly looks at him to give her the chocolate, looking like a puppy. He gets her to fetch the chocolate, and she asks if he likes the item. Kanade responds yes, and she decides her name is Chocolat. She then tells him that she is here to help lift his curse of zugzwang. Kanade gets excited and asks her how when the girl reveals God will tell him. Promptly, he gets a phone call from God. Kanade initially thinks it's a joke, but God turns him into a girl. He gets upset, screaming at God to change him back. Finally, after turning Kanade back into a boy, God tells him he has to complete missions to lift his curse. God is equally clueless why this curse fell upon Kanade since he got replaced after his predecessor, a woman who found out her husband cheated on her. He tells Kanade that he must complete all missions on time, otherwise the curse will stay forever. He gets upset by how unhelpful God is and saves his number with a bad nickname. Kanade then turns to Chocolat and asks her to leave, but she reveals that she cannot do that until his curse is gone. He asks her how to do that, and Chocolat has no idea. Kanade gets upset, but faces a choice that forces him to let her stay in his house. Later, while walking to school, Kanade gets a mission from God on his phone to make Yukihira laugh heartily. He sighs, worrying about how to make the weird Yukihira laugh. In class, he is forced to act like a crying pig from a novel scene, getting humiliated. Yukihira starts pointing flaws out in his act and gets Yuji to punish him for his crimes as the class watches the Fail 5 members bicker. Finally, Kanad's teacher comes in and bails him out. She takes him to the counseling room again, where Kanad tells her about the situation with God and the missions he faced. She tells him that God and the supporter Chocolat are all real, and that he must take his missions seriously. Later, while heading to another class, Kanade remembers how Chocolat had pounced on him and tickled him. She gave him a guide on how to tickle someone for his mission, which he tossed away furiously. After the class, he tries to make all sorts of dumb jokes and act skits out, but nothing seems to make Yukihira laugh. She notices how hard Kanade is trying and mocks him for it. During one of his jokes, she finally has enough and quietly leaves as Kanade follows her, concerned. He finds her on the rooftop where he finds her crying, upset that he might find her a weird freak. Kanade drops his bag in shock, making Yukihira notice him. Yukihira cries, thinking how whenever she thinks of Kanade as a decent guy, he starts doing weird things like asking him to touch her and randomly cracking weird jokes. Kanade drops his bag and she notices him, blushing intensely as she smacks his face hard. Knocked out, Kanade dreams about a strange gay man, Natsuhiko, about to do unspeakable things to him when he wakes up. He doesn't remember anything as Yukihira tells him she kept bashing his head into the wall. He tries to get her to laugh again but fails, then desperately tries to take out Chocolat's tickling guide in a last-ditch effort when he ends up taking out a banana she gave her. He tosses the useless banana away, and as Yukihira starts leaving, starts chasing her. However, Kande trips on the banana and falls down. To his surprise, Yukihira starts laughing out loud, finding classic comedy hilarious. The next morning, Kanade wakes up with Chocolat in his bed, whispering unknown homoerotic stuff. He figures out where his Natsuhiko dreams come from when suddenly he receives a mission to peek at a girl called Konagi's panties. Later at school, Kanade is worried about his mission at school when he runs into Yuuji with Konagi. She is an innocent, klutzy girl, and Kanade feels guilty about having to look at her panties when suddenly he faces two choices: to ask her to show him her panties or offer to trade his underwear with hers. He ends up asking to see her panties when a group of protectors shows up and beats him up. Back in class later, Yuuji talks to Kanade. He explains how he needs to see her panties for pure reasons. As Yuuji realizes, Kanade usually doesn't act like this. He wonders how the popular Konagi is friends with a member of the Fail 5 when she shows up and asks to talk. She tells him that she wouldn't mind showing her panties, but she will only do it for her lover. Kanade feels guilty when he gets forced into asking her to show her panties, and once again, he gets beat up by the protectors. Later, Yuuji sees Kanade and offers to help him with his mission, remarking she finds his weird acts fake, but will do it for fun anyway. One day, Kanade goes out with Yuuji and Konagi. He asks Konagi about a cute hairband she is wearing, who reveals she got it as an anonymous present. Kanade tells her to not wear gifts from strangers, when Yuuji reveals she is also wearing a stranger's gift, a pair of panties. She starts offering Kanade her own panties and tells Konagi she needs to know what panties guys like to get close to them. Kanade ends up revealing that he prefers garter belts, drawing nearby people's attention when suddenly he faces another choice: to ask all ladies to put on garter belts or wear one himself and start squatting in it. He ends up having to explain to a policeman about his remarks. Later, Kanade tries but fails to peek at Konagi's panties. He finally ends up seeing her napping on a table. Thinking it's his chance, Kanade hesitates to violate the innocent girl when suddenly a thief comes running over. He stops the thief, who threatens him with a knife when Yuuji comes flying with a kick, knocking him down. Kanade gets a glimpse of her panties, finding out she wears garter belts when he suddenly gets a notification for a mission complete. It turns out that the two besties had swapped their presents, and Yuuji was actually wearing Konagi's panties. Kanade sighs in relief as the two girls thank him for the date, when suddenly a gust of wind lifts up their skirts. Both girls get embarrassed, but the usually energetic Yuji gets flustered and runs away, shocking Kanade. One day, Chocolat joins Kanade's school. The cute is instantly a hit with all the students, and Kanade faces a choice to either experience pure ecstasy or get harem time with the most popular members of the class. He is shocked that both choices are good and chooses harem time. Later, Chocolat gets sweets from everyone in the class. She offers them to Yukihira, who refuses them and prefers fondling her breasts instead, accusing Kanade of doing it every day. Chocolat confirms this as the class looks at him in disgust. In reality, Kanade had just woken up for school. He gets nervous, trying to explain what happened when suddenly, Yuji bursts in, disguised as Kanade. He rips off her disguise, and she seems embarrassed to see him. Kanade wonders if she is shy after the panty incident, but she reveals that she's wearing shorts to protect herself now. Later in a bathroom, Kanade wonders when he'll get his harem time when suddenly, a feminine voice asks to meet him. He is confused about how a girl entered the boys' bathroom when suddenly, a man bursts in. Kanade gets out and gets chased by pretty men as Chocolat watches in excitement. He later gets bailed out by his teacher and asks her about the choices changing. She says that she remembers, but every time she tries to tell him about it, she gets brain fog. He tells her about his useless supporter Chocolat, and his teacher is confused, remembering that her supporter definitely was handy. Kanade returns home after school and gets a call from God, who tells him that he just can't wish his curse away because another goddess who preceded him inflicted this curse. God tells Kanade that he doesn't know who she is before ending the call. Kanade is frustrated when Chocolat starts talking to him. He asks her if she likes him, and Chocolat responds yes, saying she likes him more and more every day. Kanade is flustered, remembering that his teacher asked why he let such a useless pet stay in his house. The next day in class, the class president asks everyone for ideas for the upcoming opportunity fair. Everyone is pitching in wacky ideas when a popular boy, Suga, walks in, wanting to talk to Kanade. Chocolat and Yuji start pestering the boy, leaving him speechless when a girl walks in, asking for the three of them. It is the most popular girl in school, Sarah, and she invites all of the Fail 5 members to a grand battle with the most popular Fine 5 at a freshman's orientation ceremony. The Fail 5 have Karasu, another weird boy aside from the present 3, and an undecided final member. Sarah leaves, hugging the cute Chocolat and remarking how cute she is, almost inhuman. Kanade notices this, but suddenly gets a notification to get all the girls at the grand battle to say they like him. At home, Kanade worries about how he'll get all the girls to say they like him. Later at school, while talking to Chocolat, he gets an idea to just ask the girls to say they platonically like him instead of confessing their love. He asks Yuji, who immediately says she likes him. Then, he runs off to Yukihira, who is still as cold as ever. The girl rejects him, saying she hates her, and Kanade returns, defeated. He then encounters a girl, Yuragi, who everyone calls Oni-chan. She clings to Kanade, who wonders why she is back in Japan. Yuragi explains that her family was sent to some remote place in Africa where there weren't any high schools, so she had to return. She then asks why everyone at the school calls him a weirdo, even though he was popular in middle school. Kanade thinks about it when he suddenly gets a choice to either break her heart or release his snot all over her. He chooses to act cool, saying how he has changed and is no longer the soft Oni-chan she knew. Yuragi is delighted, saying he finally changed. She follows him to his class, where she meets Yuji and Yukihira and immediately becomes friends with them. They take Yuragi as their 5th member for the grand battle and meet up with the Fine 5 to discuss their strategies. One of the 5, an ample-bodied girl, Reikadu, announces their lineup as the flat Yukihira gets jealous of her. The two get into a fight, and Kanade is forced by a choice to make them break up. The glares glare at a dejected Kanade, and Yuragi rushes to comfort him, saying she loves him. She then starts pestering Suga, wanting to be his little sister, but finds out that he already has 5 little sisters of his own. Later, Chocolat comes into the room looking for sweets when a boy from the Fine Five tries to seduce her. President Sarah ends the meeting when Kanade gets another choice to either make all the girls love him or tell everyone he will make them confess. He boldly confesses before returning home. The next day at school, Kanade meets Yukihira at school again, who mocks him for his bold declaration. Yuji tells her that she has already told him she likes him, shocking her. Yukihira quietly leaves, as everyone notices, confused. Yukihira thinks in a stairway about all the girls getting along with Kanade, jealous. Back to Kanade, he decides to get Konagi to say she likes him. He talks to her, telling her how he feels like an outcast being the weird kid and needs a confidence boost from the confession. She nods and is about to say she likes him when suddenly her protection squad arrives and takes Kanade away to beat him up. She follows Kanade and tells him that she likes him as a person, saying she appreciates that he forgives people and is mean to him despite being an outcast. She feels flustered after the confession and runs away. Later, Kanade approaches Reikadu to ask her how she feels. It turns out she is an arrogant girl who has accumulated a fan base of masochists who lay at her feet. She shuts Kanade down, saying he needs to beg her for it. Kanade actually begs her, shocking Reikadu, who still refuses. He suddenly faces a choice to either reveal that her breasts are fake and blackmail her, or change his name to something unacceptable. Reikadu notices that Kanade has found out her secret and drags him away to a quiet room. She asks how he knows her secret, and Kanade tells her to give him what he wants to keep her dignity. She nods and takes off her shirt, shocking him. Reika thinks Kanade wants her body, and he tells her that all he wanted was her saying she likes him. She does as he says, and later reveals that she got fake breasts and started acting arrogant after finding out her childhood crush likes strong women. Kanade returns to class and wonders about his next target when he notices Yukihira dropping something. It's a flyer for a kids' event featuring a pig mascot, White Meat. Yukihira returns, embarrassed that Kanade saw her flyer, and runs away after punching him. The next day, Kanade is dressed up as White Meat at the event, hoping that Yukihira will show up and say she likes him. He gets to stroll around town as the mascot where he sees Yukihira spying on him. She approaches him when nobody's looking, hugging the giant pig. Kanade is surprised that the cold Yukihira is so gentle and fond of cute things. He picks her up in his arms and takes her someplace, noticing how happy Yukihira looks. The two have a fun day together, and later in the evening, they sit down. Yukihira asks White Meat to listen to her story and tells him that she was just an introvert who wanted to fit in. She would be cold and make weird jokes, but ended up getting outcast instead. Yukihira then tells him that despite her actions, a boy named Kanade still talks to her and accepts her. She is afraid that if she reveals her true personality to Kanade, he might not accept her when White Meat starts comforting her. Yukihira thanks him and tells White Meat that she loves him. Kanade suddenly gets a choice to either ask Yukihira to get him out of the hot costume or wipe his memories of her real personality and have his homework folder deleted. He chooses to get heat stroke in the suit, shocked upon returning home and seeing his relaxation folder deleted. At her house, Yukihira is happy that she got to talk so openly with White Meat, hoping to do it with Kanade someday as well. Kanade is discussing their strategy for the grand battle with the girls when they meet Karasu, their final member. Wrapped in bandages, Karasu tells the group that he won't participate in the battle. Kanade chases him outside where he meets Sarah. He asks her if she likes him, and she offers to say it if he beats her team in the grand battle. On the day of the battle, Kanade's teacher Utage is present as an analyst. The competition begins with one member from each team fighting in a randomly picked challenge. The first fighters are Suga and Yuragi, where the two have to improvise a fight. Suga pretends to return home with a fish, while Yuragi convincingly acts as if he returned home after cheating on her. Her acting baffles Suga himself, and she easily wins a point. The next contenders are Konagi and Yuuji, who have to wrestle each other. The strong Yuuji is about to win when suddenly she trips and falls out of the ring, revealing her panties to Kanade once again. She quits and runs off, and the next battle is between Reikadu and Yukihira, who engage in a catfight. Yukihira seems to have the upper hand, even bringing up her fake breasts to a shocked audience. She decides to save her face by touching her breasts and claiming they're natural after all, relieving the audience and making an embarrassed Reikadu scream out an award-winning insult, giving her the point. It's Karasu's turn to go up, but he refuses and leaves. The green-haired boy from the Five's side comes up and asks Chocolat to contend from their side. It turns out, he forfeits the match to suck up to her, relieving Kanade. Next, it is the captain's turn as Seira and Kanade face each other in rock, paper, scissors. Kanade easily defeats Seira, who fulfills her offer and confesses to the audience that she is in love with Kanade. Kanade is relieved, but realizes he is still missing Chocolat's confession to complete his mission. He is forced by Seira to call out to Chocolat, who immediately confesses she loves him, shocking the audience even more. After the grand battle, Kanade faces bullying from jealous students everywhere he goes. He sighs in class, tired as he notices Yukihira and Yuuji blushing when Seira drags him out. She asks him if he has ever experienced true love, when Kanade realizes that despite having been asked out, he never fell in love before. Seira leaves, saying it should have been her who told him this. Kanade returns to class to see a silent Chocolat. He suddenly faces a choice to hug either Chocolat, Yuuji, or Yukihira. He hugs Chocolat, who seems to be experiencing some changes. She asks him to hug him privately, feeling embarrassed. Everyone notices how she has become polite and calm instead of the usual dumb and energetic. Kanade is weirded out when Chocolat reveals she has regained her memories. He drags her to the roof where she tells him that she fell out of bed this morning and felt a bit weird, and his hug really snapped her into reality. Yukihira is spying on their conversation, wondering if Kanade is doing some amnesiac roleplay with Chocolat. He denies it, saying even he found out about it today. Yukihira and Kanade start bickering, and Chocolat smiles at their act of love. Yukihira is flustered by the word love and utters a soft sound, surprising Kanade. She quickly regains her cool and heads back home. Kanade heads back home, where he is surprised to see that Chocolat has cooked an exquisite dinner for him. He is used to Chocolat normally devouring his cooking, but she explains that as a divine supporter, she can conserve her energy and requires little food to eat. Chocolat smiles and offers to feed Kanade the food, who agrees. Later, she tries to help him in a bath, but Kanade refuses, wanting her to just leave. Chocolat apologizes, feeling guilty about all the times she dragged him down. Kanade tells her to leave and asks her to tell him about her situation later, which she agrees to. Chocolat tells Kanade that she used to be a top supporter but lost her memory. Later, she was assigned to Kanade by a female god. That god, however, got exposed for cheating and locked herself away, leaving the assignment to Kanade's infuriating god. Kanade thinks about it, remembering his god's words, who said that the shut-in god before him was also clueless about the curse. He realizes there is a third god who cursed him and sent these absurd missions, and Chocolat says she has no idea who that would be. She says that despite her ignorance and limited use, she would like to confess her love for him. Kanade is shocked, and Chocolat approaches him, wanting him to kiss her. She says that he can end Zugzwang with the kiss, confusing Kanade. She keeps pestering him as Kanade backs off, eventually knocking an object on her head. Later, Chocolat goes back to her previous food-loving self. The next day, everyone at school is relieved that Chocolat is back to normal when Kanade and the Fail Five get tickets to the Aqua Galaxy water park as a reward for winning the grand battle. Kanade is shocked to see a mission to capture a picture of Yuuji crying at the pool. Kanade approaches Yukihira, inviting her to go to the water park with the group. She initially refuses, inwardly feeling insecure about going out in a bikini, but ends up snatching the ticket from Kanade anyway when he easily gives up and starts to leave. The group heads to the park with Utage, finding out she's a famed reckless driver. In the car, Yuuji is having fun while Yuragi feels sick. Kanade remembers another book from God that Chocolat gave him. It included tips on how to make an onion spray, which Kanade made just in case. As they are about to reach the park, Kanade receives 3 choices: to either explode, go beyond the park, or speak out every thought he has at the park, and he chooses to speak out his thoughts. After reaching the water park, Kanade is taking out his stuff in the locker room when he faces a choice to either wear a loincloth, go nude, or Japanese-sized swimming trunks to the pool. He decides to put the trunks on and leaves. His teacher Utage meets him, noticing his lack of manly assets. Kanade quietly remarks that her own chest is flat as well when he faces a choice to either lift her up in his arms or call her mommy. He decides to lift her up, surprising the petite teacher. She realizes it's his curse, and Kanade compliments her on her maturity when suddenly he blurts out how small her boobs are. She gets angry and immediately smacks him before storming off. Kanade notices Yuuji drinking from a coconut and tells her to be careful, saying she might ruin her cute swimsuit. She blushes and agrees, and he leaves to see Yuragi trying to recruit people into her elder siblings. She gets sick when a terrified little boy calls her One-chan and runs away, and Kanade leaves to check on Chocolat. Chocolat seems to be drooling after a men's physique competition, thinking about all kinds of inappropriate things she wants the buff men to do to Kanade. As Kanade deals with the 3 girls, Yukihira watches them from a corner. She thinks she should have just accepted Kanade's offer, but still feels intimidated by the bigger breasts, wondering if guys prefer them more. Kanade later runs into the fine 5 girls. Sayara seems to empathize with Kanade's struggle and warns him to keep track of all 3 girls instead of just focusing on Yuuji. Kanade wonders what she means. Soon, however, he sees a standoff between Reikadu and Yuragi. The 2 are about to clash, using their Oni-chan and Machochist armies against each other. Their armies cancel out, and Reikadu and Yuragi begin fighting with water pistols. Yuragi manages to pin Reikadu down, but she flips her back, and both of them faint. Kanade leaves to check on Chocolat, where he finds out she is a special judge for the men's physique show. She ends up choosing the winner, choosing him to come home and do unspeakable things to Kanade. He sighs, turning around to leave after checking on her when he encounters Sira again. She tells him that Yuuji might be on the roller coasters and reminds him to check on Yukihira. Kanade wonders what her agenda is, helping him out and toying with him, to which Sayara simply says she wants him to have a good time. He leaves to see Yuuji after Sayara tells him that cheaters never prosper. Kanade finds Yukihira as she sulks, thinking about how he is always surrounded by so many girls. On seeing him, she acts cold again. Kanade asks why she showed up, and she makes an excuse. He asks Yukihira if she wants to join the others, and she replies that she's heading back home. Kanade compliments her swimsuit, saying this is the first time he's seen her in one. She calls him a pervert before leaving, secretly blushing. Kanade finally reaches the roller coaster, where he sees a scared Konagi. Yuuji comes out, wanting to drag Konagi for another ride. She refuses, and Yuuji wants Kanade to come along. He is scared, and Yuuji releases this but drags him onto the roller coaster anyway. On the ride, Kanade tries to act cool, saying she'll be the one to cry when Yuuji reveals she hasn't cried since junior high. Apparently, her mother told her to only cry for her loved one, saying whenever her dad treated her like trash and hit her right, she always shed passionate tears as a skeptical Kanade thinks she's just a masochist. The ride starts, and a terrified Kanade accidentally grabs Yuuji's breast, who blushes intensely. He later gets off, traumatized, as Yuuji thinks of making him her husband after sharing so many intimate moments with her. While walking, Kanade feels desperate, pulling out his onion water gun to make you cry by all means, but faces a choice and ends up shooting his own nose with onion oil instead. Kanade sprays himself with onion oil and chocolate, and Yuragi comes by, asking him to visit a haunted house. Yuji gets skittish at the idea, and Kanade notices how nervous she is. The girls assure her it's the real deal, and they head over later. In the haunted house, Chocolat and Yuragi run around excitedly, leaving Yuji with Kanade. They encounter some monsters that chase after them, leaving the two terrified. At one point, Yuji loses it and throws Kanade's camera at a monster to fend it off. She then runs off to a safe spot. Kanade talks to her, and she seems to have become a child, asking him to pick her up. They suddenly see another monster, and Kanade runs, encountering a branched path. He faces two choices: to escape quickly and lose Yuji's tears, or take the long route and see her cry. Kanade chooses to escape, taking her out of the haunted house. Outside, Yuji is still clinging to Kanade, wanting him to carry her like a princess. He agrees, and she starts nuzzling him, making him drop her. Yuji rubs her eyes and is startled, awakening from her childlike trance. Kanade notices she is crying, and she responds that she is crying tears of joy, happy that Kanade stuck with her through the scary journey. All of a sudden, Seira appears and gives Kanade a camera. He asks for Yuji's permission and takes her picture, completing his mission. Kanade reports to Chocolat, happy to have completed the mission, but she seems down, upset at him taking Yuji's picture. Chocolat leaves, and Kanade wonders why she is upset. Seira shows up and tells him that his curse, Zugzwang, will end once he has found his lover, and Kanade remembers how the real Chocolat wanted to end his curse by kissing him. He wonders how Seira knows this, but receives no answer. Shifting to Chocolat, she talks jealousy to Yuji and Yukihira, how Kanade enjoys both of their company, upsetting her before she gets flustered and leaves. Kanade then finds Chocolat, asking her if she's okay, when she suddenly confesses that she loves him. Kanade is surprised, but she says that she loves him as a man and asks to receive his love. Yukihira and Yuji come as well, looking at Kanade when he suddenly gets 4 choices, 3 of them to pick one of the girls as a lover or have something happen at the water park. He chooses the 4th option, a bit uncertain. Kanade is worried that some accident might happen at the park and runs to find a mic to tell everyone to leave. Chocolat follows Kanade and they reach the mic. She asks him once again about her confession, and Kanade responds that he likes her and deeply cares about her, but not in the way she does for him. She responds that she loves him anyway, before a horrified Kanade notices the mic is open. Uyop. Soon, snow starts falling at the water park. Everyone enjoys themselves, playing with snowballs and experiencing the delightful scene. Soon after, Daiko and a few neighbors also show up at the water park, chasing Kanade. He cries out for help to the girls, but they gleefully stand by and watch. The show ends with the narrator repeating that life is a series of choices, telling viewers to make their choices and shape our future. That's all for today. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel for more amazing content.